Okay, good evening. Good evening, all. Um, we are going to go ahead and get started. My name is President Nikki Zimmerman, and I am here to call this meeting to order. Next slide, please. Our mission, the Fairfax County, the Fairfax County NAACP is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization whose mission is to achieve equity, political rights, and social inclusion by advancing policies and practices that expand human and civil rights, eliminate discrimination, and accelerate the well-being, educational, and economic security of Black people and all people of color. Next slide, please. At this time, we will shift to our religious affairs for our opening prayer. Chair Pat.
Good evening, everyone. Let us look to the Lord. Gracious Father God, we come together this evening with grateful hearts, thankful for the opportunity to gather in unity, purpose, and service. We ask for your guidance as we conduct the business of this branch. Grant us wisdom in our decisions, clarity in our discussions, and a spirit of cooperation in all that we do. We also pause to lift up those in our communities who may be burdened in body, mind, or spirit, facing hardship behind closed doors, those experiencing fear, harm, or uncertainty in their own homes. Surround them with your protection, comfort, and courage, and guide us to be a community that fosters safety, compassion, and support. Bless this meeting and each person present, and may our work reflect the values of justice, love, and service. In your mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank
Amen.
you.
Amen.
Next slide, please. President's report. Okay. Really don't have a lot to report. Some great news. We are being awarded the Program Planning and Developmental Community Award from the alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, the Fairfax chapter. They are having a lunch on May 17th from 2 to 4, and we will be there to be presented our community award. So thank you not just to the sorority of Delta for recognizing our hard works, but thank you all as members and as supporters of the branch who come out, who help us when we need help, who come to the meetings, who spread the good news of our advocacy. It is truly an honor, and we wouldn't be able to do this without you all. So this is as much your award as members of the branch as it is the branch leadership or the branch itself. So thank you very much. Uh, we are. It is convention season. So the National NAACP convention will be held in Chicago this year from July 18th until the 22nd. We have a slate of 4 delegates that we have going, and I would like to put a motion up to the general membership to approve the following people. Second VP Les Shockley, Secretary Mike O'Brien, Housing Chair Miss Mary Payton, our environmental representative, as well as Region 3 VP and at-large member for our branch, Miss Karen Camblin.
President Zimmerman,
Yes.
I move that we provide assistance to those members listed for the upcoming, I just lost the word. What did you call it? Convention.
Convention.
Sorry, for the upcoming convention.
If I may, Madam President, also that we approve the slate that you just
Yes.
offered.
President Zimmerman, I move that we approve the slate of individuals to attend the upcoming convention.
All in favor by show of
Is
hands.
there a second?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
Okay. All approved by show of hands, say aye. Show of hands. All opposed, nay. By show of hands, any discussion? The ayes have it. And we will move on to the secretary's report.
Madam President, it'll be a very short report tonight. I apologize. I'm on my phone tonight. My technology is acting up, so hopefully by next meeting I'll have that straightened out. We did, thanks to our wonderful Assistant Secretary Rachel Luckenbaugh, we sent around the minutes with the notice of meeting that was just sent yesterday. So you should have received them. We're asking for a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. Do I have a motion?
I second the motion.
We need a motion
got
first.
first.
I'm sorry. I wasn't listening. I apologize. My apologies.
Ms. Lenore, can you bring the motion up, please?
Ready for the second.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor of approving the minutes as presented, say aye by show of hands.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Oh, we still on the ayes? Nay, same sign. The ayes have it. I forgot to mention, May 2nd, we are partnering with the Gum Springs Community Center and the Gum Springs Community Center Advisory Board for a Mother's Day sip and paint. That will be on the 2nd of May. There you go. Please take a screenshot and RSVP. That is this coming Saturday. This is our Mother's Day event. Thank you. Before we move on, we have some community leaders here. I'd like to give them an opportunity to share what's going on. We will start with Ms. Deborah Graves, our member at large and vice president of the Gum Springs Community Center Advisory Board.
Yes, good evening, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity. Again, as President Zimmerman said, that we were going to have the Mother's Day Sip and Paint event this Saturday from 2 to 4. We're excited, and I need to let President Zimmerman know that we were at 50, and now it looks like we're exceeding the 50, so we may very well have a whole lot more. So we're really, really excited about that. And then shortly after that, we're going to be having the June 10th golf tournament that we're asking people to be a part of as well. And that's on June the 18th. And then Community Day, June 10th, celebration will be June the 20th at Gum Springs as well, along with the health fair. So we're excited about that as well. And we're actually seeking partners because for those that don't know, and which I know everyone does, I'm being facetious, the county is saying that they basically have run out of money per se. And the things that they normally partner up with us, like the rides for the children and some other, the game truck that we have for the children, they're not able to give us the funds. So we're looking at partners as well too, to help us supplement Community Day.
Can you send us a write-up for Community Day?
Absolutely.
Also is that the men's health fair that you all are talking about?
It's actually for everyone. So of course
It's just a health
trying to
fair?
yes, we're trying to get women to get their men out there because generally they listen to their women.
Okay, can you send us a write-up for that as well? And we
Absolutely.
can bring it to
Absolutely. Yeah,
can
along
bring
with a
it-
blood drive. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, ma'am. We also have Carla Okuchi, the president of the Fairfax Education Association. Any updates on what's going on with education?
I can speak on behalf of the Virginia Education Association as a board member.
Okay.
We have a collective bargaining bill, and we have taken collective action this past week to make sure that both chambers of the House passed, rejecting the governor's many amendments. And so it is back on her desk as written, as agreed upon by all of our labor partners. And anything you all can do to help encourage the governor to sign it as is would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Can you
Carl,
put in put in how people can reach you for any type of questions, or who can they reach out for any follow-up questions?
Sure.
Thank you. Secretary O'Brien, I'm going to get to you really quickly, but we have members of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Can you please give us an update on what you all are doing in the community, please? Ransom.
Yes, so I'm sorry. I just got to unmute. Thank you so very much. Currently, we are still kind of working on we actually have a health initiative forum that unfortunately I'm not prepared to speak about that will be coming in the next couple of weeks, but I will make sure to forward that information. I guess who would be the best point of contact for that?
You could just email me. Oh, for health, did you say for health?
That's correct.
Okay, we have our interim health chair, Charmaine McCoy. Write this down, please.
Sure.
Health, health at fairfaxnaacp.org. That is her email.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed, sir. Secretary O'Brien.
yes, I was just going to ask Representative Carla if she could just give a quick summary of what some of those amendments were, and or point us to an article that we might be able to read about that.
I can locate that and put it in the chat.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Okay, and we will move forward to our treasurer's report.
Hi, good evening. Sorry, allow me one moment to share my screen.
Is she on mute?
She is actually. I thought she was just. Thanks, Les. Uh, Treasurer Monique, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I was just chatting away. All right, I'm just going to start over and go over it briefly one more time. Just a
Thank
moment.
you.
Okay,
We lost
everyone.
your share, though. We no
Oh,
longer can see your
let me
screen.
pull it back up. Sorry. All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes,
Yes.
and we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I just wanted to provide an update on our 4 accounts that are currently all in good standing. The first account is our operating account, It sits at $53,556.69. Our next account is our restricted funds account. This account is money that's earmarked for grants. Currently sits at $45,210.21. Then we have our youth account, which we've deemed for scholarships, sits at $14,485.09. And lastly, our Freedom Fund account, currently sitting at $23,900.01. All right, Lenore, I will turn it back over to you, barring any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move to our committee reports, I wanted to let everyone know of a few updates that I'm so excited about. You all know that we are approaching our Freedom Fund Gala. By show of hands, how many of you attended our gala last year and the year before? I can't see because of the screen. Well, I'll tell you this and get ready because tickets are on sale now. Our keynote speaker this year is confirmed to be Mr. Roland Martin. We are extremely excited to have him to come and grace our stage and be with us. We're just a little bitty branch here, but he's coming and he's speaking and he's going to be with us that day. So I encourage you all to purchase your tickets as soon as you can. They are on sale now, and it'll be great to see you all again, to see you all there. So again, Roland Martin will be our keynote speaker for the evening. It is a masquerade ball, so please wear your mask. If you remember last year, we did a sneaker contest. I'm quite sure this year we will do a unique mask contest. We are looking for vendors. So if you have a small owned business, we encourage you to fill out the vendor form. We are looking for sponsors. There are different tiers to sponsorship. I believe as low as I think, don't quote me, 750.
650.
650, thank you. 650 is the lowest sponsorship. So we are still looking for sponsors and there are different tiers. You can visit our, no, I'm sorry, Miss Evelyn, would you mind putting in the chat the link to the sponsorship and things like that and tickets and so on and so forth? As you all remember, last year we were sold out and people were going through extremes to get tickets. Some of you all remember when we cut off the Eventbrite, people just started making donations to the branch in our PayPal for the amount of the ticket. We cannot do that this year. So we got a bigger venue to ensure that everyone can get a ticket. Please get your tickets because once they are sold out, we cannot open it back up. All right, so now we're going to move on to
President
budget.
Zimmerman,
Yeah, yes.
First Vice President Evelyn Spain has her hand
Oh,
up.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Oh no, I'm sorry. That's not me. That's Dee Dee. Oh, I'm sorry. I should leave my hand down, but Dee Dee has a question.
Yes. Oh, and also, really quick, we are looking for volunteers for two things. One, for the weekend of the state conference, which will be here in Fairfax County on the 13th and 14th of November. So Virginia State Conference and NAACP are looking for volunteers for that. More to come. We are also looking for volunteers to help on our Freedom Fund event. Mr. Roland Martin wants people to sit at his table to sell his merchandise, his books and such. So if you all are interested in volunteering for the evening, even to be a floater, please let First VP Spain know, and we can continue on. Miss Dee Dee Carter.
Yes. What is the cost of the tickets if they're on sale? And then what is the date? And has that date been confirmed or not? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. We have when Miss Evelyn does the Brief for Freedom Fund, she will go more in depth.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, yes, ma'am. I just wanted to bring the good news of who our confirmed speaker was.
Yes.
But now we will move on to budget.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Les Shockley, and I'd like to give everyone here an update on the Fairfax County fiscal year 2027 budget. With a little background here on April 14th, I represented the branch in making testimony to the Board of Supervisors regarding those budgetary priorities for our branch that cover the areas of housing, criminal justice, and education. The hearing was held over 3 days. As far as the priorities that I talked about at the time had to do with specifically in the area of affordable housing. Along with other housing advocates, we were requesting an increase in funding by the Board of Supervisors to 2 cents of the real estate tax rate for 2027. We did express our pleasure with the board's advertised budget, adding an additional $5.5 million to provide emergency rent, utility, and food assistance in that advertised budget package. We requested more money for rent support and legal assistance for pre-eviction and unhoused people. We were happy and expressed our appreciation to the board for continuing to support the co-responder teams and mobile crisis units. These are the units that address help people who are having a mental crisis and preventing tragedies from happening like we had a couple of years ago. We were pleased by that. And we also pushed for greater funding for the Public Defender's Office to supplement their budget so that, indigent people, largely Black and Latino, and people who have mental disabilities don't have legal representation. So we push for more funding for that office. And we also expressed our support for the full funding of the collective bargaining agreement between the Fairfax County Public Schools and the Fairfax Education Union. So on today, the Board of Supervisors met to prepare what is called a budget markup. And what happened is on April 16th, Brian Hill, the county executive, submitted a letter to the Board of Supervisors with his proposed changes to his original budget, which had a $23 million of unspent funds, or what we would say is in excess of funds that were unaccounted or to be placed in a reserve. And he laid out in his letter that, due to all the economic uncertainties at the federal level and at the state level, that the county should hold back these funds to meet emergencies. At the budget meeting today, Chairman McKay made two important changes to that budget recommendation. One is with respect to the housing, he did increase, or they did propose that the housing support, the money support for the affordable housing be increased by 1/4 cent. And what that does is that will add an additional estimated $8.8 million to the fiscal year 2027 budget. Again, this is the county's goal is to reach 10,000 affordable units by 2034. And so in total, in the fiscal year 2027 budget, that's going to add about another $52 million. The other change is for homeowners, the real estate tax rate was reduced by 1/4 cent. So the average homeowner, and this is average, was stated that instead of an increase of $357 in your tax bill this year, you're going to save $20, or as a typical homeowner at a certain assessed value on their homes. So it's a minor change. Taxes will still go up, but at a slightly lower rate. Also, there are some smaller programs that were included in the budget for those who might have been present for, hearings that where people testify from Be Well. Funds were reinstituted to continue to support those programs um, and other programs that were typically well under $1 million in funding. So the chairman stated 51% of the county's $6 billion budget is going towards Fairfax County schools. It's still a question mark on the state level since I think Ms. Oguchi referred to the fact that that's still not done or completed. So that's still an open question to how much money Fairfax County will receive from the state. But just structurally, everyone continues to believe, well, not believe, but the case is that Fairfax County does not get an equitable transfer from the state for what it pays for in taxes towards the state. So there's a structural issue that is talked about every year that continues to need to be addressed. So as it stands now, what we're looking, well, excuse me, I would say that this budget, it's based on the feedback that each of the supervisors gave today. It's pretty clear this budget will be passed. It will be voted on formally on May 5th, which is next Tuesday. The only opponents were Supervisor Harity, the one Republican on the Board of Supervisors, and Supervisor Alcorn, who felt that the cutbacks, that he actually opposed the reduction in the real estate tax because he felt that there are many needy programs that were, as a result of the reduced real estate tax, would not be funded as a result of making that trade-off. So that's where we stand, and we'll see formally next week as this budget is passed and goes into effect. Even though it's stated to be 2027, it goes into place on July 1st of this year. Open for questions. And that's my, excuse me, let me say this. So as far as the testimony that I gave and the public defender's office, I could not tell whether anything, I mean, it would be a small amount, but I did not see anything in the documentation I reviewed. I sent a note to the head of that office today. Haven't heard back. She's out of the office to see whether there might have been any additional funds that might have been granted to her office. That's the public defender's office. And again, the bottom line is that the reserve was reduced to about $5 million, not leaving a lot of money for contingencies and emergencies, but the environment that we live in, it's very uncertain. And I think people, we'll see how things go. Thank you.
Thank you. As we move forward, there is no report for CJ. We have no report for legal redress as well as membership. However, for membership, I believe next month, I'll let them do it. We did the Divine Nine Challenge, and so the results will be coming out for that. And I'll let the chair make that announcement for next month. Education is not here as well. However, we have our subcommittee chair, Mr. Darrell Allen here, who runs our scholarship committee. Mr. Darrell, I'm sorry, Chair Darrell.
Yeah, so I just want to update on the Shelby Scholarship. So the application period is going to close at the end of this month. So far, we have 7 applications, And after the application period closes, we're going to submit those names to the educational committee. I'm not going to be included in that selection. And we're going to have those members select the 3 recipients who will be awarded a $1,000 scholarship. And we're going to celebrate the scholarship recipients on Saturday, June the 6th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Gun Springs Community Center in Alexandria. And the event's going to be catered. It's going to be a catered brunch theme. It's going to include eggs, bacon, shrimp and grits, and other items. Due to the cost, the attendance is going to be limited to 50 guests. And if you'd like to attend, registration will be required. And we're going to send out additional details on how to register sometime next week. And that's it for me. Does anybody have any questions?
Hearing none. Thank you very much. And if you need to contact Mr. Allen, the information is right. Can you go back real quick? Oh, right there at the bottom, scholarship at fairfaxnaacp.org for any questions or concerns or how you can donate to the scholarship fund. Okay, and as we move
And also,
forward,
too, I just want to say I'll put my.
yes.
Oh, sorry about that. I just want to make one last statement. Yeah, you can contact me through their email on the screen, but I'll also put my phone number in the chat. So if you have any concerns, you can probably get a response quicker by just sending me a text.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna Chair Payton, we're gonna do you last. And we'll have you brief last, right before you introduce the guest speaker. So we are gonna skip housing and we're gonna go to Freedom Fund. And can you do win as well?
Awesome. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Oh,
I didn't know if you wanted to go health. That's next in alpha order if you were doing that.
I didn't see health. Oh, I'm so sorry. We'll do that right after. You will be right before Mary. Freedom Fund and win.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, we have great news for Freedom Fund. You just, if anyone joined the meeting late, President Nikki has secured Roland Martin as our keynote speaker. And so that is going to be fabulous. I've been working with, and I also put in the chat, if you know anyone, as President was saying, if you know anyone that wants to do an ad, that wants to purchase a ticket, any sponsors, I put those links in the chat. So please take a look at it and participate or send it to someone that you know that who might want to be a part of this amazing Freedom Fund Gala that we're having this year. And we're additional attempts to make this a star-studded event. I'm working with Chair of Religion, Pat Jackson, and we're trying to get Jumi Olabanji, one of the anchors from News Channel 4. I used to work with her sister, and I know she's done a lot of amazing activities in Fairfax, and we hope to share some of her accomplishments and award her with the Community Service Award at the gala. So stay tuned. And then hopefully out of the whole deal, maybe we'll get some news coverage and be on TV too. So we're excited about that. And then we have not selected a church yet. So if anyone wants to work with us and submit their church as a possible awardee of the churches that have done outstanding engagement with the community, we would love to hear from you. Last but not least, what else did I have here? Oh, Dee Dee, you asked for the cost of the event. The tickets are running at $150. The event is going to be held October 10th from 5:30 to 9:30. And the theme is unmasking greatness. And we kind of like playing off of, oh, what's the name of the event? I cannot even think of it.
Bridgerton.
Bridgerton. Yes, thank you, Miss Norwood. Thank you. So we're doing a play off of that, and it's going to be amazing. We have our wonderful DJ from previous years. We're always happy with what he has to bring to the table. Our photographer is the same one we had last year. People enjoyed him. He did a great job, so we're bringing him back to the fold. Um, yeah, but cost is 150. The date is no, October 10th, 2026 at the Falls Church Marriott, at the Falls Church Marriott. Um, yeah, I think that's it that I have for Freedom Fund. Are there any questions? Oh, and one more thing. I wanted to note that, we've had previous winners of the church award. We had Harvest Assembly. And then we had Mount Olive Baptist Church. So again, we're looking for a dynamic church that has been doing some wonderful things for the community as our predecessors have done. That is it for Freedom Fund. For um, women in NAACP. Again, we had our celebration in March. I think you knew about that. We're trying to partner up with maybe the environmental committee when they have another event later on in the year to talk about the advantages of electrical vehicles and why that's important to have some of the buses in our neighborhoods because the fuel from the fossil fuel, the fumes from the fossil fuel has negative or adverse effects on our children. And we're just trying to engage people and help them understand why or what the importance is or the advantages of owning electric vehicles if you don't have it personally. But we're trying to work with the schools too to commit to having more electrical school buses in those areas where we have health challenges. So stay tuned for more information on that. Thank you.
You have a question from Ms. Deborah Graves?
Yes, Miss Graves.
Yes, Miss Evelyn, how are you doing this evening?
Good, thank you.
Good. Can you please spell out for me? Because I'm not hearing totally the place.
The place?
Could you spell like the first name or not?
Oh, for Falls Church, Falls
Falls Church.
Falls
Okay,
Church, Marriott.
perfect.
I
And
believe that's
also,
called Fairview Park Marriott.
okay,
Fairview, thank you. Fairview Park Marriott. Thank you.
perfect. Perfect. Also, how do we submit? Is there an application process to submit our church for the outstanding engagement in the community?
Yes, ma'am. Just please, you may feel free to send an email to the Freedom Fund email
Okay,
address and then let me know. Well,
perfect.
be letting me know. So I'll be on the lookout for your
Okay.
nomination of your church. Yes, ma'am. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And make sure that the church is in Fairfax. It has to be in Fairfax County. Uh,
Thank
so
you.
yes, ma'am. Economic development. I'm all over the place.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Uh, we were discussing with Fairfax County's Economic Development Initiatives team how we can work together to stimulate new small businesses in the lower income parts of the county. And we will be working through a plan to do that over the next several months, and we hope to have something concrete towards the end of the year.
Thank you. And we will move on to political action.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. We've had a very busy month leading up to today, resulting in a victory. Our voices were heard. The redistricting amendment was passed. And just to share just a little about what we did this month leading up to the vote, we held a virtual town hall. We went out into our neighborhoods and knocked on doors to tell our neighbors about the upcoming vote. We wrote postcards, and we also had tables at voting polls. And I know that you all are seeing the news about things that are going on in the court system, but we cannot let that worry us. We will just have to wait until it settles down, but we are still claiming victory. And that concludes my report, unless there are any questions.
Thank you. Okay, religious affairs.
Hi again, everybody. Okay, so still want to give you a reminder of our Juneteenth commemoration, which will be taking place on Saturday, June the 13th at 3 o'clock at Bull Run Regional Park in Centerville, Virginia. And we are having a cleanup day 2 weeks before our June 13th day. So that will be on May the 30th, where we're going to spruce up the grounds in preparation for the event. So we welcome any volunteers who might want to come out that morning to help us. Also, we may be featured, Fairfax Public Access will have a crew there to capture some of the moments at the event this year. So that's fun. We're excited about that for more publicity, of course. And then good news on our Girl Scout Gold Award initiative. We are very, very close to completion with the new pathway at the Harris Family Cemetery. So we want to thank those of you who came out for that installation. And a huge shout out to John Dister, one of our members with our religious affairs group, who has been helping and mentoring our Girl Scout Camden Parker, and of course Camden's mother. Huge undertaking. Looks like we're almost done, and it looks really, really nice. So thanks again to everyone who helped with that. Also, we're planning a group outing to Nationals Park for Faith Day, their annual Faith Day. It's going to be on August the 8th, and it's for an evening game. It gets started at 6:45 p.m., and it will be the Washington Nationals versus the Cincinnati Reds. Now, in order to secure group pricing, we need at least 13 people to buy tickets. The tickets are $49 a piece, and they're located down the third baseline. Now, if you were to buy your own ticket, that $49 ticket will be $58. But if we go as a group, it will be $49 because there are no fees or taxes if you go as a group. So if you can in the chat, just let me know if you have interest in going, or you can send me an email at religiousAffairs@fairfaxnaacp.org. We just want to make sure that we can at least meet that 13 participant criteria in order to be a group, be considered a group. So if you're interested, please either in the chat or via email. And we'd love for you to join us for an enjoyable and uplifting evening of baseball. And finally, a huge shout out of thanks to the Little River United Church of Christ for a very generous donation that they made to our branch. They have a robust anti-racism ministry over there, and one of our members, Joanne Zellers, who joined last year, participated in some of our monthly meetings and heard all the great things that this branch is doing. And she took it back to her church, and they responded with that wonderful donation. So again, thank you so much to Little River United Church and to Joanne Zellers, who's been looking out for us. Good looking out, Miss Zellers. So if there are any other questions, please let me know, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair Pat. Okay, I would like to introduce you all to our interim health committee chair. We have not had a health committee in about 5 years since the pandemic. And we are so grateful to have, hold on one second, please. Hold on one second. We are so grateful to have someone step up and help us out. Her name is Charmaine McCoy. So I would like for you all to welcome her. And without further ado, Chair McCoy, please take it away.
All right, awesome. Thank you, everyone. And it is really a privilege and a pleasure to be here this evening with you. So briefly tonight, I'm just going to talk about some of the mental health resources that we have within the county. Next slide. Crisis and immediate support. So when we think about a crisis, this is a situation where a person's emotional, mental, or physical state puts them at an immediate risk to harm themselves or others, or prevents them from safely functioning. So usually something like suicidal thoughts or behavior, severe panic, psychosis, or confusion, threats to harm others, overdose, or substance-related emergencies. And a crisis is not just distress, it's when safety is at risk and immediate intervention is needed. So when you call 911, it is also imperative that you ask specifically for a crisis trained officer. And why that is important, those officers are trained in mental health de-escalation. So when we think about this, it increases the likelihood of medical, mental health referral versus incarceration. And then it also promotes safe, trauma-informed response because not all emergencies are criminal, some are clinical, and asking for a crisis-trained officer helps ensure the right response. And then the detox center. So, detox is needed when an individual needs to safely withdraw from drugs or alcohol under supervision. And then this is normally used when people start to have withdrawal symptoms. So, shaking, sweating, nausea, they are at risk for seizures. And then what is provided at the detox center? It's medical monitoring, medication assisted withdrawal, and transition planning to rehab. Next slide, please. And then ongoing mental health support. So our community service board. And the community service board, they do an initial screening and assessment. They determine the level of care needed, and they also direct individuals to the services that they need. And when we think about those services, it can be therapy, psychiatry, substance use treatment, crisis stabilization. And then even when we think about how to support someone beyond the crisis, they have peer recovery, which is usually support with someone with lived experience. And then assistance to case managers. And case managers are professionals that help coordinate appointments, they assist with medications and social services. So they really turn a care plan into a real life action plan. And then there's also housing and long-term support. Next slide. And then domestic violence and safety resources. So there's a 24/7 hotline, a national hotline, as well as emergency 911 services. And for this domestic violence, when we think about it, it's just a pattern of abusive behaviors used to gain or maintain control over an intimate partner or family member. And then the types of abuse: physical, emotional, psychological, sexual, financial, and digital now. So monitoring or harassment online. And then one thing with this, access to care should not be complicated in a moment of crisis. So I just wanted to share these resources so we know what's available. Luckily, we do have a lot of resources in the county, so just a few slides to highlight what's available. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Um, we will have those resources posted on our social media sometime this week or the top of next week. Um, so when you see them, please repost those resources. And thank you again, Chair McCoy. Without further ado, I'm going to hand this over to our Housing Committee Chair, Miss Mary Payton, to give her committee brief as well as introduce our guest speaker. Mary, Chair Payton.
Thanks, Nikki.
Thank
As
you.
far as our housing report goes for this month, I'm going to talk about 3 areas very quickly, all of which involved extensive public hearings. The first is that we wrapped that we'd been working on since just before COVID. Both of them were projects that were proposed by the county in neighborhoods where there was a great deal of civic association in the form of NIMBY opposition. One was for a homeless shelter and permanent supportive housing in Mount Vernon district. The other was for affordable housing project in Franconia district. And in both cases, there was a pretty drag out fight with the neighbors coming out and not wanting those. And we helped organize groups who promoted those 2 projects. And it went on for a long time, but I'm happy to say that in the past few weeks, both were approved by the Board of Supervisors. So they will go forward. It'll take like maybe 2-3 years before they're actually built, but pretty much the struggle is over for whether they will be built. The second one was that we, in addition to NAACP's testimony, we always form a team of people to testify for more affordable housing funding in the trust fund. This is special money that's set aside to help build new affordable housing or to preserve older apartment buildings that will remain committed affordable. So we put together about a dozen people and they all testified, and we had people ranging from homeless people who were quite eloquent to actually this year we got a real estate agent, a developer, who testified that public subsidy is definitely needed for housing that would be affordable for people making below 60% AMI, because the market just was not supplying housing at that level. So it was very interesting to have him. He's very well known to all of the Board of Supervisors, and he gave a very good presentation that they listened to very carefully. The next testimony we're going to do is next week, and the board is approving an incentive program for revitalization areas. And these are all of the older areas of the county, the ones we call pockets of poverty, the ones where you have a older shopping center in the middle, and then there's maybe a ring of older garden apartments or larger apartments around that ring. And they're areas that the county has designated in its comprehensive plan as higher density mixed use development. So to incentivize development, the county now also has an economic incentive plan, which we think is kind of going in the wrong direction. A lot of the revitalization areas, like since the 60s, since urban renewal days, had an intention of revitalizing the neighborhood. Most of them went bad. Most of them actually cleared out the neighborhoods. And those of you who are old enough to remember urban renewal will recall. The county's plan incentivizes larger developers to come in, and gives them the following incentives. If they consolidate 2 acres of land in these particular areas, and they propose new building, new development, and it can be commercial, residential, or industrial, although there aren't any industrial areas designated. They don't mention retail. They don't mention small businesses. The county will give them 10 years of a tax breaks, which could amount to like $13 million in one of their examples. So it's a fair amount of money, fair amount of incentives. But these are the kind of developments that often end up displacing people. And the revitalization areas do include a lot of garden apartments, a lot of older apartments. They're not just confined to the shopping centers, but they go much broader, much outside those shopping centers to include residential areas. So we're trying to get the county to envision a revitalization plan that has opportunities to incentivize developers that will help benefit the community that's living there already, rather than simply rebuilding the area and ultimately forcing people out, even if they're helped with relocation fees. We want to get some programs that'll help. The county is trying to help small businesses, but they're not helping them to stay where they are. They're not helping them with rent. They're not helping them with incentives to stay in the neighborhoods where they've built up their clientele. So what we're trying to do is to look at some of the things that are going on other places and try to connect the county and try to get them to think of some other tools besides this kind of large scale incentivizing large developers tool, that would help actually revitalize the actual community of the actual people, who are there already, rather than chasing them out. So that's what we're up to. This is a really huge challenge, and we're just kind of starting to really make some noise about it. So anyway, tonight's guest is our fair housing speaker. April is Fair Housing Month, and we have always had a fair housing speaker for Fair Housing Month, and we're going a little bit beyond that with this speaker. Fair Housing Month usually kind of reflects back on the Fair Housing Act and the legal ramifications of creating protected classes of people by race, by gender, by many different categories. I think we have 12 categories now in Virginia of protected classes that you're not supposed to discriminating against in selling or renting houses. But there's also the concept of housing justice, which includes that, but maybe goes a little bit beyond that to do things like I just talked about to make sure that the lower income neighborhoods receive justice in terms of housing and in terms of investment. And our speaker is pioneering this type of work at an organization called Housing Opportunities Made Equal of Virginia, or HOME is the acronym. And he has been doing this on a statewide basis for some years, and I'm very admiring of this organization, and I've asked him to come in and speak with us. The speaker is Thomas Okuda Fitzpatrick. He's the executive director of HOME, ensuring everyone has access to quality, safe, and stable housing in opportunity-rich communities. Since joining HOME in 2022, Tom has spearheaded a systems change approach to HOME's housing justice initiatives, emphasizing policy changes through impactful fair housing enforcement, through litigation, and legislative advocacy at the local and state levels. So, Tom, thank you for coming here tonight, and tell us how you do it.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I have been listening in on your all's committee reports, and man, you guys do so much work. It's really amazing. I have been going back and forth on whether I'll use some slides. I find slides to be tedious when you're on Zoom, and so think I'll just go without slides here and talk a little bit about the work we're doing and exactly to what Mary's point was, how we think more broadly about the fair housing movement and starting to use the term housing justice to better reflect the work that we do. It is Fair Housing Month. The Fair Housing Act was passed in April of 1968, and Home of Virginia was founded in 1971, 3 years after that passage, by volunteer engaged citizens in Richmond who recognized that we couldn't just rely on government to enforce this new, pretty radical law. The same government that was at the root of decades and decades of discrimination, decades of intentional underinvestment in certain communities, and really at the heart of why we have so many of the societal challenges that we have. And so they started Home of Richmond in 1971. And our bread and butter for the first number of years was the enforcement of the fair housing law. And that's still our bread and butter today. We have investigators on staff that will investigate allegations of discrimination. Mary had mentioned that 12 protected classes, of which We have 7 federal protected classes and 5 state protected classes. And the idea that you can't discriminate based on those protected classes when it comes to housing. And so when people get that spidey sense that something's not right, folks reach out to us. I encourage you all to feel free to reach out to us. We have testers, circuit shoppers to help you investigate those cases. I started 4 years ago. Prior to that, I was on the board for 9 years. And one of the things I thought we need to also think about was as we develop those cases, having attorneys on staff, litigators on staff that can help to really frame those cases to be broader thinking, more systemic. And so while we help individuals, we're also thinking about how to change the landscape. It's not new to us. We've been doing that for years, but to actually have litigators on staff is something new. And so we currently have 2 staff attorneys. We're going to be recruiting here for a third one very shortly. I think some of you guys know about home. I think, as Mary said, we've had you all usually have someone from the fair housing movement speak to you all. For those that are new, I say this enforcement of fair housing laws, it takes the place. It could be holding realtors accountable. It can be looking at property management companies. In the 90s, it was the insurance industry. My predecessors recognized that there was not fair insurance being sold in Black communities, that Black homeowners often had a hard time buying insurance, and when they did, it was at a much higher cost. And so we became experts in that field. We, not me, my predecessors became experts in that field, and found out that it really was really disparate ways that these insurance companies were treating Black and white applicants. And we brought a lawsuit against Nationwide Insurance. We hired a young attorney by the name of Tim Kaine. Some of you guys may have heard of him. He was doing a lot of civil rights work here in Richmond, actually doing a lot of housing justice work or fair housing work with Home. And this was this case against Nationwide ended up being the largest jury verdict in a civil rights case ever. And it changed the industry, and that's what we're trying to do, is change industries. And so we we've been engaged at work. We've also been engaged in policy work at the state and local level. State work thinking about tenants' rights, expansion of rights, and more recently zoning reform efforts. At the local level, mostly in the Richmond area for now, looking at how do they do zoning and how can we really tackle the practices of exclusionary zoning with more thought on land use and greater allowances so that some more supply is built and folks have greater opportunity to buy for and move into affordable housing. So Mary and I had a breakfast a couple weeks ago, or maybe a couple months ago, and I talked about how this word fair housing is often not fully understood by most folks. It's an industry term. Folks in the housing industry seem to know it. But quite frankly, before I joined Home's board, I didn't know what fair housing was. When I talked to my colleagues, none of them really knew what fair housing was before they joined our staff. It's a clunky term. It has a very specific legal meaning. Can't discriminate in housing transactions. Because of someone's membership in a protected class. But that's not an accessible term. It's one that oftentimes most of the intakes we get, it's not a violation of the fair housing law. It's either unjust tenant landlord issues. Sometimes they're legal and just kind of not great. And we need to change those laws. Sometimes they do violate other tenant laws, but not the Fair Housing Act. And so we try to figure out how do we talk about our work with a little more accessibility, and recognize that from the very beginning, a lot of the work we have been doing has been housing justice. Um, the Urban Institute defines housing justice as ensuring everyone has affordable housing that promotes health, well-being, and upward mobility by confronting historical and ongoing harms and disparities caused by structural racism and other systems of oppression. And and the other parts of what we do at home is not just enforcement of fair housing laws, but it's also we have housing counseling. We have a program for first-time home buyers, first-generation home buyers, with a down payment assistance. Right now, that's only in the Richmond area, but there may be opportunities to think about that more broadly. We do foreclosure prevention work that is statewide. So when folks are facing foreclosure, we do have a housing counselor on staff that can hopefully help them save their homes and direct them to the right resources. We also have a reverse mortgage housing counseling too to help folks retain this generational wealth that they have accumulated. And then we have a mobility program talking about this idea of upward mobility. When folks get their voucher and they win this lottery ticket with this housing choice voucher, it's still often hard to find a place to live. And so we have housing counselors for that too. And so what we started talking about is housing justice to better encompass the full range of services that we offer and to think more broadly about how do we change systems. And quite frankly, we need to be very intentional about the systems that, if we want to really fulfill those promises of the 1968 Fair Housing Act. One of the statistics that shocks me still to this day, and one that I was not familiar with before I started at home, was the recognition that the racial homeownership gap is greater now than it was in 1968 or 1970 when the Fair Housing Act was passed. Um, I'm going to, like I said, I'm not going to plan on sharing many slides, but if I'm able to share a slide, I'm not sure if I have that power. You know what? I'll just talk through it.
You have the ability.
I
You
do
should
have the
share
ability.
option at the bottom of your screen.
I got it right there. Okay. Is that, no. Is that something can you see the slide here
We can, yes.
with the homeownership gap? So this slide here talks about the percentage of white households that own their homes and the percentage of black households that own their homes in Virginia. And that gap was 13% in 1970, and in 2020 it was 24%. And and while the white homeownership rates grew over that time period, in fact, black households, their percentage of black households that own their homes decreased in those years. And there are a lot of reasons for that, a lot of policy decisions that have taken place over the years to account for that. But the thing that really sticks to me is that it was decades and decades of intentional practices that got there, and it's going to take intentionality to change that and to get and to right those wrongs. And so we're thinking more broadly about what does that mean and what does that look like? The other thing that we often talk about at home then is what are the hidden ways that we see this the in unequal access to housing, and what are the ways that we can change that? And so one of the efforts, kind of the intersections of health and housing or criminal justice and housing, and how do we think about being in partnership with organizations to address those root causes? And so we are working with our partners right now to think about criminal history usage when it comes to property management companies' screening of new tenants. And we were engaged in some litigation a couple of years ago against some very large property management companies who changed their practices after we filed suit when they had blanket policies that said they would not discriminate or they would not rent to people who had a criminal background with blanket policies. And we said that had disparate impact on Black families, and they changed their practices. But now we are thinking about how to build a larger coalition and change that at the General Assembly and have a law that would make it and constrain the ability of property management companies and landlords to use someone's background or criminal background when making their determination. So that's not that one example. The other thing that we think about, when we about the work we do is how um, oftentimes we don't see necessarily the practices in corporate practices that may not on its face have a discriminatory look to it, but actually have a greater impact than we recognize. And so we've been looking now at how banking, how it's a new idea of how banking is situated and the access that folks that have to equal loans. I'm sorry, I closed out my notes as I was changing my screen there. So give me 1 second. There we go. And so, you know, we think about this term redlining, one that's becoming more and more popular in culture and more not popular, but one that more folks recognize as impacting how things are to this day. And so we had this idea of how these historic redline maps manifest in different ways, still today. And one thing that we're thinking about now is how loan products and others kind of follow those same patterns of those historic red lines. And so this idea of banking redlining now is where current banks are located and how they perpetuate the inability of Black and Latino families to access loans and access mainstream financial products. And so, again, thinking a little bit more broadly about not just intentional discrimination, but what does that impact have on the communities of color that we serve? And so, another study that we had done a couple years ago was looking at the location of where we had mainstream banks. Let me pull this up here. In the Richmond area, this was part of a study that we had done on access to credit, and we were talking about in this report about how credit is used so broadly right now, credit scores, in a way that really has a detrimental impact on Black and Latino communities. Credit scores were created by merchants to determine how much they're going to loan to applicants, and they used to do it in a block by block. Maybe the grocery store down the street would keep a little ledger of who he would lend to, and oh, that guy, I've lent to him a few extra times and didn't get paid back last time, so I'm going to keep track of that and maybe share with my other merchants down the street. About 100 years ago, these became more nationalized, and we got the creation of credit scores to look into what people have to determine who they're going to lend to. And part of the problem with these credit scores is they're overly used. They're not just used for determining loans, but also used to determine all sorts of things. You might see them in applications for insurance. You might see them in applications to rent. You might see them in applications for, sometimes I've heard, for jobs and for political parties. And yet, all the factors that you would think that go into determining if someone should be credit worthy to loan to really doesn't then have the same impact on whether you would rent to them or give them insurance. And so as we started thinking about this access to credit, we started looking at then what does this mean for communities of color and who they bank with? And do they have the same access to loan products? And oftentimes what we realize is that where that mainstream banks are often located in white neighborhoods or neighborhoods adjacent to the white neighborhoods, and that oftentimes they are not in the Black neighborhoods. And what that creates is dual credit systems. You have your mainstream banking system, and then you have your fringe financial institutions that then serve those that don't otherwise aren't served by banks. And so one of our researchers on the staff started plotting out where do you see the main branches in Richmond, main banking loan institutions, and then where do you see the fringe financial institutions like payday loans and title loans. And so in this map here, hopefully you can see it, the yellow dots are where the mainstream banks are, mainstream lending institutions, and the red dots are where the payday loan and title lenders are. And the darkest green here is where more than 75% of the residents are people of color, whereas the lightest areas are where less than 25% of residents are people of color. And then this like mid teal is 25 to 75% people of color. So what you see here is that these yellow dots are located all in the white neighborhoods, and the red dots are located in the black neighborhoods. And again, this is not necessarily fair housing, but really is a can be viewed as kind of housing justice and access to loan products that end up then being access to housing. So with that, I guess I'll end with the thought that Richard Richard Rothstein said in The Color of Law. So as long as we think of racial segregation as having happened by accident, it's very hard to imagine how it can be undone. Once we realize it was the explicit creation of government policies, it becomes much easier to begin to envision the kinds of policies that can reverse it. And that's what we're trying to do here at Homer, Virginia. With that, I want to say thank you all for your time. Sorry, I got jumbled up a little bit there with my last couple of slides. My kids are also screaming in the background as they go to bed, so I was slightly distracted by them. I apologize. My last couple, I got a little lost in the credits section there. So,
Okay, thank you, Richard. Does anyone have questions? D. D is our housing committee member, is also a real estate agent. So let's go.
Yeah, he talked about the Richmond area, but what about, did you do any research in Fairfax County regarding Black residents versus white residents getting home loans or getting loans to purchase a home?
sorry, I don't have any Fairfax research. We had a researcher on staff who's the one who pulled that kind of that report we did for Richmond. I don't have a researcher on staff in the same way right now, so I don't have that. But the if there are some specific questions, Dee Dee, I'm sure we can actually look into. I now have one of our investigators is looking at loan products, and there may if there are certain um, areas of concern that you think that there might be something that we can dive into, I'd be happy to hear that. Oftentimes, it's individuals' lived experiences that help to inform how we do our investigations, and we are looking at the the HMDA data, the Home Mortgage Disclosure Act data, to understand better how lending institutions are how and who they're lending to and where we see discrepancies, we are able to then dive deeper. So yeah, I think that's something I'd love to have a conversation with you about.
We did have some paired testing a year or two ago in Fairfax that indicated there may be discrimination in lending. I can send you that report, but it was fairly superficial, and it could need more investigation, I think.
Yeah, I would love
Susan.
to. I would love to see that.
Susan
Yeah.
Norwood.
Am I preaching to the choir? There are formerly all black neighborhoods in Fairfax County in the McLean district, whether it's off of Lewinsville Road or off of Route 123 or off of Kirby Road, that now the children do not stay, and those properties become too expensive to keep in the family or inside the black community.
I live in Vienna, and it's the same thing here in Vienna too. Our all black neighborhood is basically gone. Maryfield is gone. I did last year I did a presentation for Mary on the black community and housing in Fairfax County. I don't know. Do you still have that presentation, Mary?
Yeah, I do. I've already sent you. You sent me. I do.
No,
that was very good.
No, I was just wondering if the group has ever seen that report. That's all I'm asking.
Presentation, I think.
Yeah, the presentation
we'll
that was
talk about it.
Yeah,
it is available. Remember, Mary, we filmed it. It's available on our YouTube page.
Yeah, it didn't come out too good for presenting, but we can go back and look at some of that stuff and maybe do a presentation on it.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I've learned from older residents, some deceased, that land used to belong to blacks on Old Cross Road, where
That
there are now
that
buildings.
that is the Carter family that owned a lot of land here in Vienna and outside of Vienna. That is the Carter family. And we also own land in McLean, CIA, and everywhere else in Fairfax.
The story of displacement. I actually grew up near Vienna, and went to high school, Luther Jackson Middle School, and so I've seen how Merrifield has changed so significantly, since I went to middle school there, driving back to a very different community. And that's something we have not engaged in Fairfax, but when we are engaging in Richmond, is how do we, as we think about the growth of the city, and as they do their what we call Richmond 300, but the comprehensive plan, how do they preserve the neighborhoods that are existing, where there is naturally occurring affordable housing in Black communities, and ensure that the folks that built this city can stay in the city. And I think that's something that you're also attuned to in Fairfax. But as we see such rapid change in our communities, we have to also recognize that preservation is very important to ensure there's not further displacement. And again,
Yeah, it seems there's two ways that communities can be displaced. One is what we're talking about here, is that the land value goes up so much that people can't afford to keep paying the taxes and the upkeep on the home, on ancestral homes. And the other way is for renters or even lower income homeowners to be displaced by these revitalization efforts that try to upzone areas and bring in larger developers that end up pushing out lower income tenants. We see
And
both of these.
That's what
and
happened.
Merrifield, go ahead.
Merrifield was an all Black community. Williamstown, all in that area, the Pines, they've all been zoned commercial, and all those Black communities have been wiped out.
The Beltway helped destroy our community. Mr. Whitmore, James Whitmore, built his own 2-story brick house and had to lose it to I-490.
Yeah. I copied speaking of Merrifield, I copied an announcement in the local paper about all the new businesses that were moving into Merrifield. And there certainly weren't any businesses that a lower income community would be interested in. They were all about body sculpting and, kind of really high end boutique type businesses. And I think that's what will probably happen to Richmond Highway or Colmore if those same incentives are applied there. You won't have laundromats, you won't have ethnic grocery stores, you won't have the barbershops and the churches, and you'll have some of these businesses in Merrifield were selling things I didn't even know what they are, but they were kind of expensive and they wouldn't sell in my neighborhood. And that's gentrification. That's what happens when you put the economic gains as your only criteria when you're redeveloping an area. Is that happening in Richmond too, Thomas? I think it might.
It sure is. I see some hands up though. Les, did you
Okay.
want to say something? And then Diana?
Yes, I had a question about maybe strategy, displacement, what Dee is talking about, and I guess Susan, about displacement that's taken place over years that where they were historically Black communities. Urban renewal is one thing, but is there a strategy maybe where people are longtime residents where they can freeze the taxes to make it affordable? I know the state has, well, I think the county has income thresholds, but just making it more feasible for people to stay. I know
it is
when children inherit the property, they may not have an interest in staying, but just curious about that.
There's a couple of things about that. So one, under state code, the taxing authority is vested the taxing authority of localities is in the state constitution. And so we've seen changes in the state constitution that give localities some authority for some tax relief, specifically the elderly and disability and some connection with the loss of and spouses of veterans who've been lost in combat or in training. Um, some cities like Philadelphia have something called the Loop program, the long-term owner-occupied tax relief program for specifically those communities of folks that meet the income thresholds, that have lived there for a long time, and targeted tax relief for them. Localities don't have that authority in Virginia right now. We have tried to push a constitutional amendment to do that. Right now, Richmond is, I think, one of the few localities that's pushing to ask for that authority. So maybe there'd be a time to chat with your legislative committee about this and see if it's something you can push the Fairfax County delegation to help support as well. That would give that would be you'll have to go through the constitutional amendment change, of which you guys were very familiar now after seeing the Yes campaign. So it does require, passage of the General Assembly, then an intervening election, then passage from the General Assembly again, uh, and then to the people. But how do we give localities more authority to give targeted tax relief is really an important question to have. When we have such high tax rates, in Richmond, it's $1.20 per 100 assessed value. And every time there's conversations about lowering that, the biggest beneficiaries are going to be the Altrias of the world, the big corporations that are paying some of the largest tax rates. And the money does go to help those individuals that are most in need. But if Fairfax County, if other jurisdictions had the ability to give targeted tax relief, it would help to keep those folks, those communities that are facing if it's for tax reasons that they're facing displacement pressures, that they could stay in their homes. There's also one of the tools that localities use is targeted grants to help folks rehabilitate their homes too. And so oftentimes folks that are on fixed income just don't have the ability to keep their houses in good repair. The roof bill comes along every once in a while, and that then causes them to sell their homes and sell to We Buy Ugly Homes or whatever those other companies are that target the folks. And so yeah, there are some real targeted programs that localities can do, and then there's others that they don't quite have the authority yet to do.
Thank you.
Diana?
Actually, it was a very tiny comment related to what Dee Dee was saying and Mary about Maryfield. And I don't live in Maryfield, but I mean, just look at Mosaic District. It's really, really upscale, and I don't know, just a lot of stuff like Mary was describing that you would never think you might need necessarily. It's pretty fancy place, and it didn't used to look like that. So
Sure didn't.
yeah, it's just an example of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing left in Maryfield is the church, First Baptist Church of Maryfield.
Nira?
Hi, yeah, thank you for the presentation. I have a question about earlier on you mentioned FICO scores, meaning credit scores, and some of the barriers to getting into home ownership. We can talk about down payments, we could talk about mortgage insurance, and maybe those are some of the ways that people are prevented from getting into home ownership. But then we also know that mortgage lenders will use those as criteria to assess risk.
Yes.
And they will say that that's how we can decide how much risk we're willing to take. How do you bridge those two sides together, where we want to remove discrimination, but we also want to, ensure that lenders are able to continue lending?
Sure. It's a great question. And I have a whole presentation on this. That's where I got my slides a little jumbled here. But when we think about what goes into credit, you're absolutely right. It makes sense for financial institutions to look at past loans and others to help, as one of the factors to help determine that. One of the challenges is that there are a lot of people that are credit invisible. The CFPB had done a report, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau had done a report back when they were allowed to do reports and actually do some real work on who had access to credit and who was actually had credit scores and who didn't. And so many kind of day-to-day transactions that you think might be included in credit score just aren't. And so some reports were between a quarter and a third of Black and Latino folks either did not have a credit score at all or had very inaccurate credit scores because they didn't have that access to banking institutions to build their credit in the first place. And you kind of have to have an initial loan that you pay back at a regular time to start to do that. So things like your income, your paying back, you're paying your utilities, you're paying a rent, aren't included in credit scores. Credit scores are really credit cards, car payments to mainstream car places, but not fringe, like buying, some of the fringe car sales folks, the buy here, pay later kind of folks. If you borrow sometimes from a store with some of their like store credits, sometimes those aren't included because they're not part of mainstream financial institutions. If you they get payday loan or title loan out and you pay it back immediately or every the whatever the very high interest rate, you pay that back very early, not going to be included in a financial credit score, a FICO credit score, because it's not a mainstream financial institution. And so what we recognize is that people's access to mainstream financial institutions is what gives them good credit scores, and then when they don't have access to that, they don't. And so there's huge disparities then in what the black and white credit scores are as well. And I inarticulately tried to explain that, mumbled that up as my kids were screaming during my presentation. But that's what I'm trying to say about like the usage of credit score, what the factors go into it, really give a unfair kind of starting point for black and white families as they're trying to build that, build up the resources to buy their first home.
Thank you. I agree with, thank you for your take. And I had to mute my own microphone because my kids are hollering in the background. So thank you.
Okay, more questions? I can't see all the people. So if you have a question, shout it out.
Can I get one more thing here? Sorry, as I talk about like more broadly thinking about fair housing and housing justice and on that credit score thing.
Yeah.
There was a New York Times article that was written, came out a couple of months, maybe a month ago, that said that home insurance companies are using credit scores as part of their pricing for home insurance. But your credit score has nothing to do with whether you're going to need to use your homeowner's insurance or not. And yet that is a factor that goes into it. And so you have people that have the same cost house, it's going to be the same cost of repairs, but they have very different homeowners insurance based on this credit score. And the reality is that there's huge racial disparities in credit scores with white and Asian families in the 55th and 54th percentile for credit scores and black families in the 26th percentile when it comes to kind of where their scores are. So we see these huge discrepancies that really don't have correlation to income or ability to pay back or wealth, but really the bigger factors that go into credit scores. And now we're seeing that impacting homeowners insurance as well. So we will probably be seeing a bill next year to not allow insurance companies to use credit scores as they price out their home insurance.
I'm seeing out things in the chat about people flipping homes in these neighborhoods like Vienna and building McMansions and thus driving up the real estate.
Yeah.
Hey, Mary, you want to take maybe one or two more questions?
That's going to change, but I know that many Black communities that were here are not here anymore.
Well, I want to say you all, just thank you all
Sorry,
for
I
your
couldn't hear
time.
you. Oops.
Mary, I was saying, do you want to take maybe one or two more questions before we close out? Is Mary still here?
I think she's having some technical difficulties. There are no more hands in the chat.
Okay. Well, we thank you, Mr. Fitzpatrick. Everyone,
Yes.
give him a round of applause. Oh, Mary's back. Mary. Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Fitzpatrick. Miss Dee Dee, last question, and we're gonna close this out.
I think
Miss
people
Dee
are
Dee.
just clapping.
Oh, I thought she had a hand up. Okay.
Thank you
All
all very
right.
much.
No, we do have a hand, one
No,
hand.
no, that's a mistake.
Okay.
Mine was a mistake too.
No worries at all. So now we will close out. Thank you all for coming to our monthly meeting. We will close out with well, for one, thank you again, Mr. Fitzpatrick, and thank you, Mary, Chair Payton, for facilitating this important conversation. Thank you very much. We have learned a lot. This is really great. Um, Chair Jackson, would you close us out? Well, let me ask for a motion to close out the meeting, and then Chair Jackson, you can give us a prayer, please. Ms. Honor, can you make the motion?
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
A second.
Thank you. All in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Any discussion? The ayes have it. And Chair Pat, will you please close us out with a prayer?
Yes, thank you. Let us look to the Lord again. Lord, thank you for this time together on this meeting. Bless each person here, guide us in our work, and keep us safe until we meet again. Amen.
Amen.
See you all next month.
Amen.
Have a
Amen.
good
Good night.
Weekend, everyone.
Good night.
Everyone.
Night.
Bye.
Good
Night.
night.